How you doing, everyone? Welcome to the PIK podcast, Recovery Talks. And today we've asked Ian Thomas to come back on and talk to us about men's mental health. So welcome, Ian.
Thanks for having me back.
After
a short break.
We just done another podcast. You know, it was really good, and I wanted to get your perspective on men's mental health because, you know, it's only a short podcast, but it's such a broad subject.
Yeah.
And so I suppose, you know, firstly, you know, let's just kind of categorise it. What is men's mental health? You know, or is it the same as other mental health? I suppose it is.
Yeah. No, I think mental health is kind of mental health, but I think contextually, you know, there are differences that, you know, play out in gender, you know, ethnicity, sexuality. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, I think that, you know, we know that the further you are away from being a white middle-class man with blonde hair and blue eyes, the less society is geared up towards you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, you know, we know that kind of different cultures and different groups of people have histories, you know, where they've been impacted collectively in certain ways that have an impact on their mental health.
Yes.
You know, so I do think it's important to acknowledge, you know, men in the world of mental health and what are, you know, the specific circumstances which men, you know, are contending with.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I think very much, you know, men, you know, have very much dominated history, dominated the world, mankind, you know.
Yeah, so the kind of masculinity that comes into it. Yeah.
You know, and there's definitely been gender inequality, you know, and it's been in the favour of men, you know. And I wonder if somehow men have kind of shot themselves in the foot a little bit with that idea or that way of being, because toxic masculinity, you know, like this preconceived idea of what it means to be a man, strong, domineering, you know, not showing any signs of weakness, holding everything together, being the breadwinner, all of which isn't really what constitutes as being a modern day authentic man, but, like, you know, these are things, you know, that you contend with, you know what I mean?
So what are we saying, that you know, men are being asked to kind of soften in the modern day, if you like, or we're being kind of called to soften, or, you know, and that is creating I suppose confusion, if you like, of like, who am I really, you know, how should I be, how should I act in a modern world, if you like.
Well, let's take an environment that is more easier to deconstruct and you know, much more prevalent, but clearly some very strong correlations.
Yes.
The male prisoner state.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, so you can't rock up to the breakfast table in prison and say, "Listen, lads, I feel really unworthy of receiving love today."
No, you can't.
Do you know what I mean?
Not going down well, is it?
You know what I mean? I bang my little toe on my prison door and it really hurts.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
you can't, can you?
Yeah.
You know, and furthermore, like, the way that you have to behave, which is conducive to your survival, isn't conducive for healing, recovering from addiction, childhood trauma, rehabilitation. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And having, like, a real honest chat with yourself and authentically evolving, you know, into a more vulnerable, rounded, you know, sane human being.
Yes.
And it's the same for, you know, so I think that kind of the men in society in some respects is a kind of somewhat covert version of that. Yeah. You know, like, you know, because, like, the prisoner state is very overt, you know, it's very obvious, it's very prevalent, it's very in your face, like, but I think society, you know, and there are, you know, gender roles that, you know, kind of men are kind of seen to have to subscribe to, being the breadwinner, the success, power, you know, but by no means am I sort of painting out men to be, you know, the victims categorically, you know, but I think that there are aspects of, you know, male culture that aren't helpful for men.
Yeah, and I get it, you know, it's, you know, and I suppose just looking at my own mental health, you know, there are times, and I suppose when do I see that toxic masculinity?
Donald Trump?
Yeah, no, I'm trying to think about it myself.
Okay.
You know, sometimes I hear myself saying something. You know, we spoke about relationships earlier. I hear myself saying something in a relationship, and I'm like, oh, it's not the one.
Yeah, or just shit like man up.
Yeah, or just fucking get on with it.
Yeah, give your head a wobble.
Yeah.
Man up, just get on with it. Why are you moaning about that for?
Yeah.
What's your problem?
Yeah, and I suppose, you know, that just reinforces that idea that we should just get on with it.
Yeah.
And you know, for me, I did a 12-step treatment centre, and without a shadow of a doubt, for me, the best rehab I ever attended. And I could probably argue, you know, the success rate there is very, the success rate for clients staying clean is good. But they would have man up pills in the office.
Oh, what?
Man up pills in the office. They weren't pills, they were mints.
Okay.
But you'd go in and you'd complain about something, they'd go, give him a man up pill.
Oh, really?
Like, yeah.
Wow.
And I think, you know, because I don't think that came from a place of toxicity, but I think it came from a place of trying to combat the sensitivity, you know.
Well, you know, I mean, in the world of recovery, there is sort of this sort of right-wing hardline approach,
Yes.
like the old NA Nazi, you know, slogan, where it's sort of like, do the steps or die, motherfucker.
Yeah, they told me that too.
Yeah, you should be grateful, you know, and I think sometimes, you know, that sensitivity for me is a calling for an unmet need. You know, if there's something I'm running up against, you know, it's the egoic way of looking at it is saying, oh, you're sensitive, oh, you're being jealous, oh, you know, you don't know you're grateful. But the therapeutic way of looking at it is actually there's a calling there, a deep longing for an unmet need. There's something that needs attention. There's an area within that needs nurture. And I think that when men don't get that, you know, it's ripe breeding ground to cultivate, you know, ways of thinking that deny us of the opportunities to be with ourselves authentically.
Yeah.
You know, like we both go to the gym. We spend a lot of time in the gym. Well, you look like you do because you're looking pretty fucking buff. Didn't get them arms picking apples, did you?
I'm feeling really skinny next to you.
Oh, you reckon? Nah, listen, man. I'm thinking to myself, I thought I was doing all right, and then I was greeted by this fucking bus. Do you know what I mean?
I was sat when you walked in and we did the podcast. I was looking at you and I didn't engage with you straight away. You know, my ego was aware there might be another ego in the room.
Oh, this is great. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Let's run with this.
But the two egos in the room, you know, and I was like, get his arms, man. Get his arms. They're not as big as mine. They're bigger than my arms. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. Do you know what I thought? I thought to myself, this is a big bloke. He's handsome. Do you know what I mean? Like externally, he's got it all going on.
Yeah.
I hope we can find kindness.
Oh man, I think we have.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, to jump back to this. Well, let's go with the ego thing in 2 secs. I get them. Like someone shoot that dog. That's the intrusive thought.
What's that doing for your men's mental health?
I'm like,
what dog? I can't hear a dog.
I'm like, someone shoot the dog, please.
Just give the dog a bone.
There's a dog barking outside, and it's like my head's falling off over it. Anyway, carry on. Yeah, you know, and what I do notice is, you know, when I'm like vulnerable with people, especially, you know, I work in a treatment centre, so I deliver groups. You know, and oh man, there's a connection between.
Yeah.
Because obviously, you know, so they see me the same way you just described. You know, I'm a big guy, and part of me in my role I have to manage people, and say like, come on, we need to go to group. It's, you know, be on time for group, that sort of stuff. Yeah. You know, and I have to hold the line with, you know, kind of, you know, people requesting stuff that's not
boundaries, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I have to keep my boundaries, and I can be like, no, we're not doing it, and I can be quite hardline, that NA stuff, and then what I notice is when I go into group and I'm vulnerable, and someone said to me the other day, man, you could hear a pin drop in there, because it's like they don't see that side to you very often.
Yeah.
I notice it's the most effective, even with the staff. I work with some psychotherapists in Koh Phangan. When they have a certain way in Thailand. They're kind of a little bit hippie, which is great.
Yeah, I love that.
The energy is good. And when I work with them in a way that's like, a vulnerable way, the relationship between me and them is better.
Can we deconstruct that a little bit?
Yeah, go for it, yeah.
Because I think that's really important, because, when I met with someone and I meet kind of like the professional version of them, or like the version of them that kind of has all this responsibility, or like the really confident version of them, or the assertive version of them, I appreciate that all of those aspects of human nature and roles that we portray are part of the package.
Yeah.
But when somebody's vulnerable, it's like the fast track to feeling close to them.
Yeah.
Like when you see a puppy and you go, oh,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Or you see a newborn baby, like, oh, because
Yeah.
babies represent vulnerability
Yes.
for me,
Yes.
Or when someone's crying and it's like, it's almost like your shoulders, and you want to go to someone's aid. It's like it's the connection to our humanity. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because, like we discussed before, there's a relationship between vulnerability and authenticity.
Yeah.
And it's when people aren't being vulnerable and aren't being authentic, they're denying of themselves to be with themselves, and that's unsustainable.
Yeah.
And it all builds up, and we're not processing ourselves, we're not expressing ourselves, who we truly are, we're not living in our true purpose. And societal norms and expectations of men kind of like fill us up with all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And that's why we get unwell, and that's why our psychological world, our mental world, kind of gets convoluted. You know what I mean? And what we need to just go, this is how I really think. This is how I really feel.
Yeah, and do you think it's because men are they're kind of torn, between this role we believe we have to play and how we really feel?
I think, I'm not too sure we're walking around thinking about it. For those of us that aren't in conscious recovery sort of programs, I think, you either work to kind of a conscious program or an unconscious program. And the unconscious program is sort of the prescription that we've been given by a society that is mostly predicated on fear, desire, confusion, survival of the fittest, mankind, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you don't work a conscious way of living that acknowledges that world and sees the edges of it, you will subconsciously, probably unconsciously, subscribe to the prescription that's been given to you. And it doesn't serve us. No. Because if it did, we wouldn't be sat here trying to talk about mental health.
No, we wouldn't. And I know, if you're happy to go there, I know you had your own experience of mental health.
Yeah.
And then to kind of meet you today and to look at you, it's like, oh wow, man, he's got it all together.
Oh, I haven't.
No.
Do you know what? Like, I think my biggest asset, Dan, is the fact that I can ask for help. That I can be vulnerable to the right people, and that like I can tell the truth about who I am. And like the truth is, some days like I wake up and I feel really uncertain, I feel really insecure, I feel really frightened. I don't know if anyone's going to like me or love me. I look at every avenue I go down in my head, I'm like upset, angry, defensive, uncomfortable. Do you know what I mean? Like, I always think other men are better than me, more manly than me, more masculine than me. Any woman that I'm with, she would fancy them way more than me. And that fucking kills me, that gear. You know
painful.
What I mean? And it's so unfashionable, is it, for a man to say that? And I don't want to perceive to be weak, and I don't want to show that. So then my ego kicks in to overcompensate for that and tries to kind of like control things. And over the years, I've done some pretty silly things and made myself look like a bit of a dickhead. But it was all just trying to manage that stuff inside, and that you know. So I may look like I've got it all together, and for the most part, I think I'm doing okay if I compare myself to myself from where I started.
Good.
But like, you know, I feel really vulnerable at times, and I feel like I don't know what to do with that, you know.
That's a really good way to compare yourself. To say, actually, do you know what? You know, if I compare myself to other people, I'm never going to be good enough. But if I compare myself to who I was when I started,
yeah,
you know, I think for the best part, if you're in recovery from something, you know, it doesn't really matter what it is.
Yeah.
You know, and you're putting some effort into that, you're probably going to be in a better position.
And if I'm comparing myself to my other people, for the most part, I'm looking at people who, you know, I think are better than me, because that's how my ego works.
Of course.
And when I'm looking at people thinking I'm better than them, I'm still in just as much trouble.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
That's such a good point.
Do you know what I mean? Like, honestly, it doesn't serve me.
Yeah.
And I'm conscious you did ask me about my mental health, and there is a particular, you know, so about 2 years ago, I started to get really anxious and really frightened and feeling very, very triggered, you know, every day, feeling not good enough, very insecure, very frightened, feeling like I wasn't successful enough, you know, and just sort of generally feeling really unworthy, you know, and it got to the point where I was maybe not sleeping a night, and I was awake all night thinking.
Wow.
And then like I would like maybe sleep maybe 4-5 nights out of the week, and like 2 or 3 of the nights out of the week I was awake, and it started becoming with a thought, and then a preoccupation, and then an obsession to take my own life.
Wow.
And I was phoning the Samaritans a lot, you know, and I even did the Wim Hof 30-day breath work and cold water challenge, and I raised money for the Samaritans. I think I raised a couple of grand because I was always on the phone to them, and I wanted to create some purpose to what I was going through. And I developed a stutter as well, so there were moments where like my jaw was flickering and I couldn't say a sentence because I was just stuttering. Wow. And I didn't know what was going on for me. I didn't know what was happening. I didn't understand it, you know, and I was like just falling apart. I lost a couple of stone in weight. Like I was just falling apart around the edges. And what I now know is that I was going through PTSD, complex PTSD.
PTSD,
yeah. Complex post-traumatic stress syndrome. Like really, really struggling.
Where did that come up from?
I think it came from being in a relationship and the mother wound. And I was sort of like, you know, at the time I was, you know, halfway through doing my masters in criminology, and God knows how I got through that. And what happened was, I mean, you and me know the territory of being a recovering addict well, you know, so you'll appreciate potentially the controversial nature of what I'm about to share.
Okay.
But I was on a beach in Cape Verde, and I was sat on the beach and I was just looking at how beautiful it was, but I was very aware of how I just couldn't access it, and it was a horrible feeling.
Like you're there but you're not there.
Yeah, it's like I couldn't access it. And you know, there were moments when I was driving down the road here in England, and like 1 minute I'd be crying and sobbing uncontrollably, and then just screaming in the wing mirror like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, I was so frustrated because the despair was so intense, and there were moments where I thought, this is it, I'm going mad, like I'm finally going mad, you know, and the only bit of sanity I got left is that I know I'm about to go beyond the point of no return. And I was doing like breath work, I was in therapy sessions. I mean, the only thing I didn't really engage in was antidepressants, because I didn't feel depressed. I was fucking highly anxious.
Yeah,
you know?
sort of beyond that.
Way beyond that. Yeah. I remember going to A&E and saying, look, I can't stop thinking about killing myself. I've been awake all night. One time, I remember I was so frustrated and so, like, the pressure was so much, like I just punched myself in the face repeatedly and give myself this black eye. Like I'd lost it. And by now I'm on this beach in Cape Verde, and it's so beautiful, and everything's perfect, and I've got everything I could ever possibly want and more. And like I'm not able to plug in. I can't appreciate it. I can't see it. I can't access it. And it was just like, what is there left? And I made a decision to kill myself, and I planned my death to the T. And interestingly, at some point in my madness of not being able to sleep, I went on a website and ordered an end of life checklist.
Fucking hell.
Do you know what I mean? And to all the things you need to do before you end your life, but for people who are ill, not people who are going to kill themselves.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it came through the post like over a month later, when I wasn't as in that dark place.
Yeah.
I remember like this shiver went through my body, like wow.
Yeah.
So I went back to the hotel room and I picked up Gabor Mate's book, The Myth of Normal. And there's a chapter in it, something along the lines of finding Jesus in the teepee. And it was all about Gabor going to Peru in South America, working with the Shipibo indigenous shamans and engaging in shamanic medicine and the healing properties within that. And I spoke to my 12-step sponsor because healing, like shamanic medicine, some of the medicine involves going into an altered state of consciousness.
Yeah.
So arguably you could see that, you know, it's drugs, you know what I mean? The way I saw it was that if I had an operation, I'd have morphine for the pain.
Yes.
And this was medicine for trauma.
Okay.
So I booked a ticket and I went to Peru, and I went to the Temple of the Way of Light, and I spent a few weeks in the jungle, like right in the jungle, with the indigenous people, going through a process of healing. It wasn't just ayahuasca, it was sort of plant baths, steam baths, lots of different types of medicines, like formulas, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, working with ayahuasca, and you know, everyone who was there had been carrying stuff, you know, their whole life. They all had trauma of some kind. They were searching. There was a couple of people on 12-step programs for the USA that were there.
Okay.
And you know, and we all just went vroom, and went right in on ourselves over that period of time. Wow. We were all there. And after like 3 weeks, everyone's just sat around doing this with their head in their hands, like analysing and questioning their whole life and existence. And
wow.
For me, you know, I went to hell and back. And
in those few weeks.
Yeah, it's the hardest thing I've ever done, and I've not lived a sheltered life.
Yeah, so I just want to kind of summarise that for people, you know, and I'm totally open to this, you know, and I totally agree with the method, you know. If I'm going to have an operation, then I would take, you know, an anesthetic, you know, or a painkiller, and yeah, it's not like you just took some ick and it was like, oh, a spiritual experience and I'm okay, you know. And I think people can think of ayahuasca like that, but it wasn't that. It was like you took that and it enabled you to go on a journey.
Yes.
Which was in fact quite a painful journey.
Yeah, it's not recreational.
Yeah.
It's not enjoyable. You know, and it takes a massive commitment. You have to diet for a period of time before. Wow. No sex, not even with yourself.
Yep.
You know. I thought, how am I going to do this? I've got mental health to think about, you know. But no sex, no salt, no sugar, no alcohol or drugs, which was easy for me.
Yeah.
No spices, no dairy, no red meat, no carbonated drinks.
Oh,
like you know, you have to be, you know, there's so much, and in the end, you're just eating, you know, no fats. So you're just having like a grilled chicken breast with some boiled vegetables and no seasoning. And I found some vegan protein powder to get me through, and then when you're there, you're fasting for periods of time, no water, no food, you know, lots of meditation that goes with it, working with all these different medicines that they give you, because they see things like ginger and garlic and different plants and herbs as medicine. We see them as food, but in shamanism we see them as medicine. And then when you leave there, you've got to maintain that for a period of time as well. Wow. So
it's a real commitment then.
it's a massive commitment. Like it's
Yeah.
not like going to Weatherspoons and getting a bag of ayahuasca from the toilet and having a sip in the, you know,
Ayahuasca night.
you know
at
what I mean?
Wetherspoons.
Yeah.
So in that process, at what point, you know, did you start to come out of that place where you were in and be like, okay, this is working?
So I haven't felt suicidal since I went.
Okay.
Yeah, like it fully. In some respects, I could owe my salvation to it. I didn't come back and start drinking or taking drugs or any of that crap. Like it didn't trigger a big relapse. No obsession to use. None of that. All of those things I would have said no way. Like 4 or 5 months prior to me making a decision to go, but where I was just about to kill myself.
Yeah.
And then, you know, ayahuasca came on my table. I spoke to my sponsor and we decided that actually...
Yeah, that's... And you know, that's... Because I know you had a long time... You must have been about... I don't know how clean were you 2 years ago?
I was 10 years.
I was thinking you were about 10 years.
Yeah.
Because I remember you doing a share saying you were 10 years and I was possibly here in Birmingham then.
Yeah, I was 10 years.
Yeah.
And you know, like for me, you know, I mean, you know, we don't want this to be about ayahuasca, it's all about men's mental health, but I'm grateful that I had the resources to be able to go and do that.
Yes.
Many people don't, you know. So if we look at the principles of what helps with mental health, you know, and to kind of manage that stuff and recover, because I'd like to touch on that, because for someone
absolutely.
watching this, you know what I mean? So what I realised was that while I was in Peru is that, you know, my mind doesn't always operate in a way that's kind of conducive to a harmonious human experience, you know what I mean? Can you relate?
Totally,
And so if I don't create a direction for my mind and it goes untamed, you know, the familiar avenues it goes down are really difficult to endure. And unpleasant and unkind, you know. And I think that's a symptom of trauma and societal conditioning and all that stuff. So I have to participate in what I do with my mind, you know. You know, and I think, you know, so like breath work, you know, cold showers.
They're supposed to be really good, you know, just 2 or 3 minutes in a cold shower.
They are.
And you know, there's some other stuff that I kind of do, you know. I've got ADHD and Asperger's. And I work with James Hansen, you know, he was my sponsor for a little while.
Okay.
And Green Open Spaces. You know, so Thailand, I'm like at home. You know,
when I'm in nature, it turns something up in me. It's lovely.
I'm just it turns something down in me, you know, and therefore turns something up. You know, I'm able
or maybe
to
make space for something else.
Absolutely, you know, and you know, good sleep. You know, go to the gym regular.
Food.
Eat the right food. You know, drink the right amount of water.
That's a massive one.
Huge.
Hydration. But what we're talking about here is self-care. And like, you know, there's a massive market for self-care in women, but not so much in men. Like, look at the world of toiletries. For a long time, not so much now, but they were always geared up towards women. Do you know what I mean? Like spa days geared up towards women. When you see, you know, spas on, it's either couples or women. You don't see a group of lads having a stag
spa
do.
day,
You don't see, do you know what I mean?
No.
And these are all things that are self-care, revitalisation. You know, like the world of skincare now for men is sort of like, you know, evolving, isn't it? But historically it wasn't. Just things like that, you know. And it's like, so, and I think that's why men's mental health needs to be on the agenda. And it's the biggest cause of death is suicide.
Male suicide.
Yeah. That's no coincidence.
No, I've been there myself multiple times and a few attempts, you know, and kind of just came to the decision. It's not my time.
Bless you.
You know, and been a bit pissed off about it not being my time. You know,
I'm glad.
Yeah, me too. You know, you know, today right now, sat here, I'm glad. And my life is far from perfect. My head's still a little bit wonky sometimes.
Touche.
You know, and I still come out sideways, and I'm still good. You know, but all that stuff is paralleled by, you know, man, I do a lot of good shit. You know, for for myself and for people around me.
Yeah.
And I've kind of learned to live with it.
Yeah.
Some days I'm not going to be feeling 100%. I can do a kind of quick inventory or a quick checklist and go, okay, what am I not doing that I was doing? And where could, it's a broad subject. We're coming up to time. But again, I think we've covered loads.
Quick then,
Go for
before we end, let's. What are we gonna do for our own self-care for the rest of the day? Because I know, for me, coming here today, I know that I'd be spending part of myself. I'd be giving, and this morning I was very busy with work as well.
Yeah.
So in my head, like what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get some nice food today. I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna have a really nice hot bath with a coconut bath bomb. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm probably going to lie on the sofa with just my towel and just watch a nice film.
Yeah.
And just chill and like not look at my phone and just give myself that time and space just to come down and use the hot bath to kind of help relax my muscles and just be gentle to myself. Do you know what I mean? And because we have to role model this stuff, Dan.
So what am I going to do? I'm going to come to yours.
Fuck you! Fucking bath. Do you know what I mean?
What bath bombs you got and how big's the bath?
Come and have a cuddle, Dan. Come and have a kiss and a cuddle.
Do you know what? I'm going to.
That's funny.
I'm going to go and connect with some friends tonight. Eat some good food.
Yeah.
And I'm sleeping at my friend's house. He's put me up for the night. Yeah. But he's someone I went through rehab with, so we've got a lot of experience, and so it's a nice connection, and then hopefully get some good sleep. That
all feels nurturing to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then get up tomorrow and try and be a better version of myself. And if I don't, then just kind of try again the next day. And just hold that. Them days when I don't feel as though I've done so well, just kind of hold that stuff lightly and know that
it's about attention to your intention.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Explain that.
So, what is your intention? Like, what is your intention to live for?
Yes.
So today, my intention will be to give myself some nurture, some self-nurture, some kindness, and I'm going to pay attention to that. And that's why I brought that question to the end of this discussion, because it's our attention to our intention.
Yeah.
We often walk around with a lot of subconscious intentions, like we walk around with subconscious beliefs, and I think paying attention to our intentions helps us align with our values.
Yes.
And what our real purpose is.
Yeah.
I have a whiteboard at home, and like I write on it goals and values, and sometimes inspirational quotes, and they change, they evolve. Do you know what I mean? But it's like, are my goals in line with my values? Are my values in line with my goals? And I think it's important to, and this is the thing. This is about having a relationship with yourself.
Yes.
And I think that is very much tied into mental health. How are we having a relationship with ourselves?
Yeah, man.
I'm going on a date tonight with Ian, and we're going to do a Netflix and chill.
Yeah.
Not that kind of chill. But do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's my attention to my intention. Because here's the thing, right? I can have a bath, I can put cream on my face, I can get dressed, I can iron my clothes, but if I do that through the vein of self-care, looking after myself, making sure I've got everything I want, do I go to the gym and smash my body and eat all this protein and think, big head, pump, or do I go, actually, and this is you having a relationship with your body, this is about you looking after your body, this is about you staying healthy, staying fit. It's about attention to my intention.
Yeah, you can switch the narrative and be like, okay, so
brushing my teeth.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Attention to intention.
Yeah, man. Good stuff.
Yeah.
And mate, thanks for doing it. And I really appreciate it. And we're good.